Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Satgurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Satgurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Satgurave Namaha. So parenting teenagers, and when we think about the parenting journey, then I think some parents would say teenagers are the hardest. But actually, when you just a new parent, that feels pretty hard too. Because it's all so new and it's also, there's like this immense sense of responsibility. And then they get older and they start developing their personalities, and then that feels hard too. So sometimes it's just whichever stage you're at, that stage feels really hard. But as a teacher, because I teach all age groups simultaneously, I can genuinely say teaching teenagers is definitely harder. And so there's a fair bit of conflicting literature also about teenagers. So the first thing that we see that there's this new studies that have found that the teenager's brain is temporarily on holiday. And the exact age is to the best of my understanding, I'll explain this to you. So our cognition and our brain from the age of 0 to 4 does the biggest growth spurt. Right? So 0 to 4, the brain is like literally, if you think even in terms of size, it's small and then swing. It becomes pretty much fully grown almost by the age of 4. And so interesting that the brain gets measured by size, because a bigger brain does mean you are smarter and that you're functioning better. And that might not seem intuitive, but it's true. And also the weight of your brain is an indication of how well the brain is doing. So it gets heavier. Literally, like, you've got more knowledge in there and it gets heavier. So 0 to 5 is your biggest growth spurt. And then 5 to 9 is pretty much all the fine tuning and the rest of the development that happens. And so by age 9, your brain is completely developed. And so a 9-year-old has the capacity to think the way an adult thinks in terms of cognition and logic. And so you'll see these prodigies
And they can do the same math as somebody who's 35, and they only like 7. And it's because their brain's already as developed as the 35-year-old. But the biggest difference is not the development of the brain. It's the level of maturity a 35-year-old will have versus the level of maturity a 7-year-old will have. Like the 7-year-old has a very unrealistic view on life. Right? So if you tell a 7-year-old, how will you solve this problem? And maybe a problem like is that you can't pay the bills and you have to now budget. And so you have to give up something. And the 7-year-old will say, I'll just get another job that pays better. And that's their solution. Whereas the 35-year-old will know that the reason you're in this situation of having to budget is because you can't necessarily get another job so easily. Or, sometimes markets are changing, or your abilities, or for a phase where you'll have to wait and it's crunch time. Like during COVID, it was just, you can't just get another job. You can't just get more money. And then if I say to them, what if there's no jobs available? Then again, a 7-year-old will say, I'll just move to another country where you can get more jobs. And I'm like, and how are you going to move to another country? Do you know how much that cost you? And they'll be like, it's easy. So a 7-year-old's logic and cognition is adult-like, but their maturity and their realisticness of the world isn't there because experience isn't there, right? So now your 9-year-old has a fully developed brain that can do what an adult's brain can do in terms of skill and ability of cognition. Then what happens is that the body starts changing its focus from developing the brain to developing the body, and hormones start kicking in, which we also know. So around 9, you can start seeing that slight, rebelliousness come into the kid, that talking back, that cheekiness, that already I know better than you, and then we're looking at them thinking, you're 9, and already they think they know better than us. And then 10, 11, 12 is where they say the brain goes on holiday. Because the hormones create this flood of chemistry into the body, and the body is changing, and so the brain almost takes a back seat. Now, there's some research to say that the brain is actually also like under repair in a way that, like when you're reconstructing a house, everything has to get moved around. So logic got created by the age of 9, but now you need to fit in like all these other desires and all these other emotions and all these other like ways of looking at the world. And so now suddenly, like those things didn't feature before. So suddenly the brain's having to reorganize itself. Also, what happens between this age of 9 and 10, so I actually remember it in my life, and you may remember it in your life. When we're very young, our parents are perfect. Like the whole world revolves around our parents. And, we'll hear even kids, like even in Bal Vihar, I'll hear kids say, but my mommy said. And then that's it. Well, mommy has said. Or, my daddy said. And then that's just, it's almost like it's law. If mom and dad said it, it's a truth. And then there comes this moment in our life where we have this awakening that they don't know everything. And even worse, suddenly there comes this moment in our lives where we see our parents as flawed. Like they mucked up, they couldn't do something. Or worse, if somebody laughs at them and we notice it. And so this moment of realizing my parents aren't perfect happens around this age, somewhere around 9, 8, 9, 10. And it breaks the child's heart. Now, the reason I mentioned I remember it is because we have to realize that they're feeling betrayed. And why are they feeling betrayed? Because they thought we were something we are not. Now, actually, we didn't do anything. We were just always who we are. But they saw us in one way, and now they're seeing us differently. And so they feeling betrayed by us. And we thinking, but I didn't do anything. It's still hard on them. It's still hard on them to have this realization, even though it's not our fault. And there's no fixing this, except that we understand what they're going through. And we can even totally own and say, I'm not perfect. And I actually never claimed to be. But when you were smaller, I definitely knew more than you. And did my best to bring you to where you are now. And so there'll be a short phase where they're angry at us for not being this perfect person they thought we were. And depending on how we handle that phase can last longer or shorter. And sometimes we don't even know that that's what they're going through. But from a parent's point of view, there's also something else. From a parent point of view, you have this kid who looks at you with this adoration on their face. You know, and says, even the way they say, Mama or Papa, has this incredible, it's drenched in affection. And then suddenly, it's gone. And they're looking at you with anger, and they're looking at you with like, who are you to tell me what to do? And they're looking at you like, and so from a parent's point of view, when that happens, I think most parents don't take a moment to acknowledge how incredibly disorientating that is. It's like, what happened to my sweet child? And so some people would say that as a parent, you actually have to take a few moments and mourn the loss of what you remember to be your sweet child. Because the sweetness is gone. But don't worry, it will come back. Not in quite the same way. It comes back in a different way. Like if you look at your relationship now with your parents, you're sweet again now to your parents, right? I hope. But you're not that same sweet that you were when you were 4 years old and they were the center of the world. Because you're never going to be the center of their world again. Just as your parents aren't the center of your world. Yeah. So if we say spiritual parenting, then we have to look at spiritual truths. And one of the most important spiritual truths is that everything keeps changing. And so don't expect the kid to stay the same. And then when they do change, we have to accept that now it's changed. And then also you've changed, right? Because, I mean, I'm sure you've noticed as we get older, like body changes and responsibility levels at work change, and then family dynamics change because our parents are getting older and now we need to be there for them as well. And then, so like, before we were bindas and could do whatever we want to, but now we have that responsibility. And so we've also changed. So they change, we change. And I think the most important thing here is when we think of spiritual principle of everything keeps changing, we have to remember that our journey in parenting, the way in which we parent, has to change. Yeah. Like, it's great to know this, right? And when I say everything keeps changing, all of us will do this because, of course, we know this. We know, right? All of us know everything keeps changing. And now you have to change your parenting style? Oh. Like, wait. We don't make that link into the concept of everything's changing. Yeah. And then we also, so when that change happens in us, when that change happens in the kids, and our style has to change, there is a slight sadness of whenever some phase of life ends, there is a slight sadness. It's not exorbitant, but slight, right? Like when we finish school, it's like, oh, now we're old. And when we finish university, then that's really sad because now we're truly adults and we have to work. And even sometimes like you finish one job and actually you're going to a better job, but you still like, oh, because that phase made you who you are. Those few years make you who you are. And sometimes even when like a really good holiday ends, you think, it's like that changes. There's like that slight having to say goodbye, having to acknowledge that this phase is over. And so sometimes in terms of parenting teens, like in some cultures, and it was there with us, so when a girl in our culture starts getting her period, there's a ritual that has to be done. And this ritual is for her to acknowledge that her body has changed, but it's also for the parents to acknowledge that now the way to parent her has to change. It's like a closing. Childhood's over. And actually, we don't have for guys at that age, in teenage, but like in the Jewish culture, they have the bar mitzvah for boys at that age. Why? Because now you can't baby them anymore. And why don't we have it in our culture? Because usually the boys went off to Gurukul. And so that's like effectively boarding school. And so the guru deals with that change. The parents don't necessarily have to deal with the change because the minute the boy gets the Janeyu thread and goes to guru, already parents have to start making them live a life of discipline and responsibility. So of course the world has changed. And so maybe we should reintroduce a ceremony that the minute they turn actually 9, because the attitude already starts at 9. Parenting style has to change. But actually parenting style has to change more at about 12, 13. Because like I said, their brain goes on holiday, and so they need you to help give the structure 10, 11, 12, even if they don't want it, because there's too much discord happening in there. And you'll notice when they're that age, they're so moody. They haven't decided yet They haven't decided yet whether they hate you or they love you. Because part of them hates you because how dare you not be perfect? And the part of them is still a kid and doesn't want to grow up. And so I still want to be your baby. And so, like morning, it's like, don't kiss me and don't tell me what to do. And then by night, they're cuddling you and like, put me to sleep, tell me a story. And you're thinking this is the same kid in the morning who wanted nothing. Because they still also adjusting with that, reconciling with that, wanting to grow up, but yet still wanting to hold on to being a kid. And so boundaries and things like that still have to be there. So number one, they are changed. They have changed. Their hormones don't make life easy for them. Number two, they have had now the revelation that we are not perfect, and it's very hard on them. And we have to have the revelation that they now no longer our sweet little babies, and we can no longer parent them like our sweet little babies. So now what do we do? So now from age 13 onwards, 12, 13, they are no longer children. First and foremost, we have to recognize they are no longer children. They are young adults. I mean, if we look at our parents' generation, my mom was married at 18. Your moms? Similar? Like at 18, when we look at it, we still think they're a kid. But they're not. We know, okay, we wouldn't do it anymore, but we know that girls were even married at 16. Right? Like Sita was married at 16. Juliet was married at 16. I mean, they're nowhere near the same category. But letting you know that there was a time when 16 was old enough to get married. Like, and then we can't be babying our 16-year-olds. Yeah. And when the war broke loose, boys were taken into war. 17, 18. They were enlisted in the army in World War II. So they're old enough to get enlisted into war, they're old enough to get married, and then we still babying them. That doesn't quite work, right? And that's the biggest challenge of teenage, is that we still want to parent them, but they no longer kids. They are now young adults. Sure, they don't have the maturity that adults have. Yeah. But they fiercely want to be adults. I'm sure you remember this as being a teenager. Like, we may not remember all the other nuances of being a teenager, but we remember we did not want to be told what to do. And so the first thing about parenting teenagers is slowly giving them control of their life. And we have to show them that we are willing to slowly give control to them of the things they do. So it has to be things like, and in Hong Kong, there's so many things we can't do. Like in America, it will be like, now you are completely in charge of your laundry. I will not tell you what to wear. I will not tell you to clean up your room. But now you, because you got your freedom to wear whatever you want to, and you get to do with your room whatever you want to, you also have to take up the responsibility of doing your laundry. And that's what freedom is. Because if you think about freedom, like they want freedom, okay, what does freedom mean? Freedom means you have more responsibility. So when we left home and we were now free and we didn't have to live at home anymore, you have to pay your own bills. You have to look after the house. You have to cook your own food. That's the cost of freedom. The cost of freedom is responsibility. So with a teenager, what we want to do is give them the freedom they so desperately want, but make sure you give them the responsibility that comes with that freedom. The mistake we do is we give them freedom and we don't give them responsibility. Like they go off to uni, and then what do? We look after their money, we buy everything for them, we super pack them that they don't have to be responsible. So now they've got freedom, but they don't pay the price for it. And so then maturity doesn't come. But actually, we shouldn't even wait for university. We should be doing it at 14. Give freedom, give responsibility. Give freedom, give responsibility. Yeah. And so in Hong Kong, it's a little bit harder to give them responsibility because, like I said, we have helpers and we don't have to. We don't have to pamper them. We can still make them responsible for things. And we ourselves know this. How did we become mature? Like, how did life experience happen for us? When we took responsibility. And so even if you think about like in the school system, they'll have older kids help younger kids. Why? Responsibility. Right? Maturity only comes when we give them responsibility. And then they value that freedom. When you pay the price for the thing you have, you value it. We already know this, right? I remember the first time I got paid. So in Australia, we start working already at age 14, 15. And then with the first paycheck, when I had to buy something, and what I bought with it was so, like, not such a big deal. Like it was, I had to work for 3 months to be able to buy this thing, and this thing was so small. And I remember also when I was choosing what I was going to buy with this first paycheck, like I would think, I'll buy this, and then I'll think, no, my hard-earned money isn't worth that. I'll wait for something better. I'll wait for something. And so the value of that money is because it was earned. I had to work 3 months, and now I have that paycheck, and now I know the value of money. So maturity only comes when we have responsibility. Yeah. So to give them responsibility, and sometimes that means like, I'm not going to tell you to study anymore, right? Because they hate us telling them to keep studying. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you anymore now. And this is why I said it's so important for the parent to acknowledge that the child is not a child anymore. Because most parents will think, how can I not tell them to study? I have to tell them to study, otherwise they won't study. And even more, if I don't get stressed out about the exam, they won't do well in the exam. Like parents really get far more stressed about the exam than the kids sometimes, huh? But giving them responsibility is letting them know. So you can't just suddenly one day do it. You have to let them know. This year, you are now old enough. You telling me you are old enough? Okay, you are old enough. I am not going to tell you to study this year. I'm not going to tell you which subjects to choose. You decide which subjects you want to choose. You decide how you want to study, when you want to study. If you need help, you come and tell me. And a very interesting thing happens when you do that. They'll come and tell you. If they're not having to fight you, they'll actually come and tell you. But if we keep treating them as kids and keep telling them what to do, then they're so busy fighting us and trying to assert their independence that our conversations end up becoming fights rather than conversations that they enjoy and we enjoy. Yeah. And it's interesting that it's human nature to raise to responsibility. Like if I suddenly entrust something to you, most people, right, 80% of people will feel an overwhelming need to meet my expectation of doing it well. Not just because it's me, anyone. Even your friend leaves their kid with you because of some family crisis. You feel this immense need to look after this kid well. Or a pet, or a house, or whatever it is. When somebody gives you something to do, we do. Most of us will raise to it. And it's true even for teenagers. It's not always true because they don't have the maturity yet. And this is where, as parents, one of the most important spiritual principles that we have to live by is... So, actually, let's do that first. I'm going to pause here and then come back to this point. When we study Vedanta, we are told that the qualities we need to be able to create within ourselves, to be able to grow spiritually, number one is a quality called Vivek. Vivek is the ability to tell the difference between two things. Yeah? And number two is Vairagya. Vairagya is the ability to detach. Yeah. And then number three is self-control. Shama Dhamma Uparama. Shama Dhamma Uparama is having self-control. So now in terms of parenting, like if for me to grow spiritually, I have to have these three things, then I have to be able to have these three things even in parenting. So number one, Vivek, the ability to tell the difference between two things. So the ability to know when to say something to the kid and when not to say something to the kid. That's Vivek. Even the difference between knowing what to say to the kid and what not to say to the kid. That's the quality of Vivek. You know. Sometimes when they're having this huge rant about how horrible a parent we are, because they do that regularly, like, do I answer? Don't I answer? I should know. Like most mums will say, yes, I'm the worst mother in the world. I already know. Made note of it. Thank you. You don't have to repeat it. And then now you've just, like, but if you go into this, I carried you in my womb for 9 months, you ungrateful little... It's too much conversation. Because usually they just highly, overly emotional and they just want a reaction out of us. And then, so there's no need to give reaction. But how to know when they do need to be told and how they won't know it. And that's very, very tricky, but it's this quality of Vivek. And so it's so nice for us to know that in our parenting journey, it can be a spiritual process because I am cultivating Viveka. Talk, don't talk. Go along with this, whatever they are saying, or end it now. And there's no winning formula. There's absolutely no winning formula. Like, you're just going to have to, even you have to see your mood that day, because, you know, sometimes you're in a great mood and you can put up with it. And sometimes you're in So exhausted, and you've got no energy to put up with it. So, Viveka, knowing what to do when and how much. Then the second quality, I think, is a little bit harder for parents. It's hard, full stop. Harder for parents. But it was hard even if you're not a parent. What is this quality? Detach. Now, when they 0 to 9, no need to detach. Bhagwan's given you this incredible responsibility of life. You have to keep this child safe. You have to nurture them, make sure they grow. Till what age? 9. Then, if you don't detach, you will suffer. Because they start detaching. Remember I told you they started seeing you as human. But also just human. Just a person now. Not the center of their world, just a person. Of course, there's love. Please note, they will never not love you. This is actually sometimes very comforting for a parent to know, because they think, no, they don't love me. It cannot happen. It just cannot happen. What age are you? Don't have to answer. You know what age you are. Do you love your parents? And you remember back to being a teenager? Did you love them then? Same. We would have said, I don't love you. We would have said, you're the worst parent. We would have said, you're so fob, you're so embarrassing, you're so this, you're so whatever it is we would have said. But we still loved them. It's just not possible that we don't. They would have to have done something so crazily drastic for us not to love them. Even then we will love them. Even parents who have abused their kids, like proper abuse, not what they claim we are abusing, like proper abuse. They're still your parents. You're still going to love them. Because the interesting thing about love is, it's the most real thing on this planet. And once you love, you can't not love. It's just not possible. It's just not possible to kill love. It's the only thing you can't kill. And so, I'll give you a simpler example. You might know people who were in a relationship and then they divorced and it was so messy. And then when things finally calm down, they still love the person, right? Maybe you don't know these people, but I know so many. It's like you spent years fighting. Yeah. And now, it's okay. And grandparents who tormented each other in their marriage, and then still so much love at the end of it. You can't not love. Once you've loved, you just will keep loving. Now that's true for a married couple who go through divorce. Then as a child, when you are born, you love your parents because you don't know any better. You don't know they flawed at that point. And then once you love, you will just always love. So now I know they flawed, but I'm still going to love. And most of us, after coming out of teenage, will realize we were far too hard on our parents. They just did the best they could. And so then we go back to being grateful, and then of course we keep loving them. So what was I saying? They're never going to not love you. But they will detach. And how do they detach? Your word is not right anymore. In fact, science has said, whatever you tell them, they'll throw science at you. Or they'll Google things in front of you and tell you how wrong you are about what you just said. So they have started detaching. They're not just nodding and saying yes to you anymore. They're now Googling everything you say to check if it's true or not. So they have started detaching. Plus, and you remember this phase, and you might be experiencing this phase, friends. Oh, friends become so important. It's my friend's birthday and I'm organizing her party, his party, so I can't talk to you. I can't come to family dinner. I cannot take that phone call from Nani and Nana. It's taking up too much time. I need to plan my friend's party. Why? Because friend. This need to be friends is their way of detaching from you. Because remember, you were the center of their world. And now you turned out to be flawed and you can't be the center of their world anymore. And so now that void has to get filled. And where will that void get filled? Friends. And we did the same. Please remember, we did the same. And friends was a way of us finding our identity. Maybe you'll remember it now that I'm saying it. Because we were always just this kid. But now parents are flawed and I can't just be my parents' kids. And so now I have to find who I am. And I don't want to be flawed like them. So now I have to find myself. And how am I going to find myself? It can't be with them. So it has to be with friends. So they start questioning you, which is their way of detaching from you. They start getting closer to friends, which is their way of detaching from you. Detaching is different from loving. They still love you. But detaching is they now becoming their own person. So if they are detaching and you are refusing to detach, it's painful. So you have to detach too. What are you detaching to? Not the kid. You're detaching from needing them to listen to you. The kid's always going to be your kid. You're going to always care immensely for them. And for most parents, you're going to always put them first. But now you need to detach from thinking they should be listening to you. Because that's what they detaching from. They detaching from listening to you. And if you start detaching from that, detaching allows us to see clearly. If I'm so invested that they have to listen to me and they have to be this way, I can't see clearly. I can't see clearly what they are. I can't see clearly what they want. And I can't even clearly see what they need. Why I can't see clearly what they need? Because I'm only seeing what I need. And what do I need? They should listen to me. I can't see what they need. So I need to detach from what I want so that I can even see what they need. And in the scriptures, it says so clearly that the more vairagya you have, the more vivek you'll have. What was vivek? Knowing when to talk, knowing when not to talk. Knowing how much to talk, and knowing what to talk. And then I know you're going to say, how will I know that? And so I'm telling you how you'll know that. When you detach from expecting them to listen to you, when you detach from them being who you expect them to be, vivek comes. Also, Here, in this Vairagya, in this detaching of wanting them to listen to you, there's another very beautiful quality in our spiritual journey. First one was very good, Vivek. Second one was Vairagya, very nice. Third one was self-discipline. Wow, you guys are awesome. Who said we don't have attention span? I haven't spoken about self-discipline so much because in teenage, it's not you disciplining them. It's more about you disciplining yourself. And how are you disciplining yourself? Don't give in to anger. Don't give in to this impatience. The discipline of just leave them. The discipline of not going into our own rant when they go into their own rant. Right? This is where self-discipline will come in for you, but you can't implement it on them anymore. Now you're giving them freedom to discipline themselves because we really do want them to know how to discipline themselves. Shama, Dhamma, Uparama. Then there's Titiksha, which I'm not going to cover. And then there's this beautiful quality of Shraddha. What does Shraddha mean? Faith. What should we have faith in? There is a higher power. Actually, there's a lot of parenting talks. Gosh, there's a lot of parenting talks. And in the midst of all the parenting talks, there were a lot of Christian parenting talks. And I thought it's so nice that they have that support network. And one of the comments that one of the pastors made is, God doesn't have any grandkids. Because every single one of us have a direct relationship with God. That's such a nice way of looking at it. Right? My kids are not God's grandkids. My kids are as much as God's kid as I am God's kid, as my parent is God's kids. We are on equal footing here. And so, how can I detach? They might totally ruin their lives. Shraddha. Faith that He's there, no? Or Divine Mother, whichever one you want to see this divinity as. Usually both, in our culture, both Shakti and Shiva are there as the divine parents looking after us. Yeah. But also something else you have to have faith in. Think, come, think. In them. We totally underestimate them sometimes. As a teacher, when I am training other teachers, one of the first things I tell teachers is don't underestimate how smart the kids are. Don't think you teaching them. Many times they're so smart that their answers will blow you away. And so just create an environment where you can explore and grow. They can explore and grow, you can explore and grow. Sure, sometimes I may already know the concept, but it's so beautiful to see them unfold it. And if I unfold it for you, it's like I've eaten it and then I take it and I give it to you. We wouldn't want that, right? Same with parents. We can't live their lives for them. We can't give them all our experiences. They have to have their own experiences. They have to live their own lives. And so Shraddha in them. I remember the first time, well, not the first time, I can't remember the first time, but we used to go out As teenagers, we used to go out. So and we got our license in Australia. I grew up in Australia. So then, you live in suburbia, and if you want to go out, you have to drive into the city or you have to drive to the shopping mall or something. We were old enough, we got cars, you drove. And then, what time did I have to be back? Somebody asked me what was my curfew. And I thought, oh, I don't know what's my curfew. And then I thought, my parents never told me what time I had to come back. Right? So next morning, I remember at breakfast, I was like, do I have a curfew? You didn't tell me. And Mom looked at me and she said, no, we trust you. That was like the worst thing she could say, because now I had to be so responsible. I had to come home at a decent time. Because of course they were awake. They were always awake. And they didn't come out of their room and let me know that they were awake, but I knew they were awake. Sometimes she'd come out of the room. Especially if she knew, because I was vegetarian. I am vegetarian, and then sometimes there wasn't, sometimes in Australia it was all meat. So sometimes she'd come out of the room and say, did you eat? I kept food for you. But sometimes she wouldn't. But I knew she was awake. I knew Dad was also awake, even though he never came out of the room. He'd send her out of the room. What am I saying? When we give them, having faith in them, that doesn't mean they won't muck up, huh? Please know, but by you having faith in them doesn't mean they won't muck up. They don't have life experience yet. They don't have maturity yet. They could very well muck up. But having faith in them is, now they'll learn. Because with freedom comes responsibility. And how else will they learn? We have to give them that freedom, and we have to make the responsibilities theirs. We can't give them freedom and we keep the responsibility, because then they'll never grow. Yeah. And so Vairagya, the hardest part of Vairagya is letting them make these mistakes. When they're very young and they're learning to ride a bicycle already, it's so hard to let them fall. But you can't ride a bicycle until you've fallen a few times, right? And then it's the same principle. We have to keep letting them fall to learn all the different things that they're going to have to learn and become proficient in all the different things they're going to become proficient in. And that's where Vairagya is so crucial. When we don't let them fall, when we don't let them make mistakes, how are they going to grow? And so for me to have that detachment of, okay, I'm going to cry here alone, but I'm going to let you fall. And you will cry, because that's what parents do. You will feel their pain, you will feel the loss, you will feel all the things you feel, but Vairagya is letting yourself feel it and not let the feeling stop you from doing what you know is the best for them. Letting them live their lives. One more thing you have to have faith in. So faith that Bhagwan is there and that our children belong to Bhagwan. Faith that they have their own journey and they will reach where they need to reach. One more thing you have to have faith in. The non-parent is answering. What do you have to have faith in? Before they turn 9, you did a good job. Whatever you put in before they turn 9 is there. You gave them. And hopefully you did. Did you send them to Balvihar? You gave them values. You showed them the beauty of discipline. You gave them culture. You gave them the feeling of home, being safe. Have faith that you did. Maybe not perfect, because nobody really is, but the best you could. And so, if you've planted the seeds, they'll grow. So, this quality of Vairagya is the one that's the hardest. And it's the one that's going to make all the difference. So just as the child is never going to stop loving you, you are never going to stop loving the child. And by giving them their freedom, you don't stop loving them. But you do stop controlling them. And it's actually a gift to yourself. You know, in our Indian families, and I'm sure you've met these people, where the 70-year-old father is still lecturing the 50-year-old son on what you did was wrong and you should do it like that, and you never listen. And you're thinking, the dude's 50. Like, he's got his own son, he's probably got a grandson, and the 70-year-old father hasn't still stopped feeling that intense responsibility of telling him what to do. Like, it's such a burden to bear. Whereas if you let them grow up, then when you meet them, you're so free. You get to just enjoy them. And you get to marvel at how they created themselves. Yeah. You're not sitting here thinking you have to do 300 things to organize their life, because then that's just such a horrible burden to bear. And God forbid, I mean, may we all live very healthy, happy, long lives, but we don't know. We don't know. And isn't it so much nicer knowing that if they don't have me, they'll miss me, but they'll be fine? Rather than thinking, if I'm not here, what will they do? That's a horrible feeling for a parent to have. And so this gift of Vairagya is really giving them their life, but it's also giving you. Giving you that peace of mind. Because they're very capable. I mean, we are very capable, so they are our kids only, right? And if we are capable, then of course they are capable. So, I spoke about these spiritual qualities of Vivek, Vairagya, self-control, and Shraddha, and how much of a beauty and an importance it makes to you in your lives. And so in terms of parenting, when something is an asset that's helping you, that's the thing to give them. We get so distracted with giving them everything that social media tells us we have to give them. Like, I'll see 4-year-olds with such funky haircuts. Like so fashionable haircuts at 4-year-old. I'm thinking, like, I'm sure you've seen them. You're thinking, whoa, like fashion started early. Like, let the 4-year-old just play in the playground. Why does the 4-year-old need to have such a fashionable haircut? But of course, the mom's excited to give it, or the dad's excited to give it to the kid because the dad or the mom has already got a sense of fashion. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that we want to give it to them because we think we want it. And why? We value it. Okay? And then even more recent, in the last 5 years, baby is wearing Chanel. Makes zero sense to me. But why? Because we value it. Because that baby definitely doesn't value Chanel. The baby drools all over it. We value it. Right? So what do we give them? We give them what we value. But the things we value, does it make us stronger? Like Viveka. The Viveka is the ability to tell the difference between what is valuable and what is not valuable. What's the most valuable thing that we have? The things that make us stronger. And so, if y'all don't mind, tell me, what are the things that are the most valuable? Too hard? It is hard. Love. Very good. Very good. Nice. Exactly. Love makes us stronger. Being loved makes us stronger? Yes. Or being able to love makes us stronger? Both? No. Think. Being loved makes us stronger, or the ability to love makes us stronger? Why? Because giving gives us happiness? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, I'll help you. Can I control being loved? Can I control my ability to love? That's why it makes me stronger. Something I have no control of cannot make me strong. Bhagwan wouldn't do that, because then it's random who gets strong and random. Bhagwan's not random. I should be able to have control over it. What do I have control over? My ability to love. So now please remember, what am I saying? Give your kids what is valuable. How to know if it's valuable? Does it make you stronger? So you love them, great, but have you taught them to give love? Trying to. I know, I'm not. Yeah, then we should take away. See, that's where detachment comes in. If they're not sharing, take it away. If you can't share, then it's not yours. But our hearts won't let us take it away from them. That's why detachment's such an asset. So, what you value is what you'll give them. And for you to have the viveka to know what is valuable and give them that viveka also. So, give them vairagya also. Teenagers are hard, but they're not financially independent. So you still have control. How much you indulge them actually is up to you. They cannot demand. Actually, they do demand, and you all give in. So then they keep demanding. If they demand and you don't give in, they won't demand anymore. So, of course, the pattern would have already been created in the first 9 years. Can you change that pattern? Yeah. Will it be hard? Yeah. But you can. Because now they want freedom. So, okay, here's your freedom. But they want your money. No, no, no. You can just have the freedom, not the money. So, this brain goes on vacation maximum till age 40. Means hormones start, they'll settle by age 40. 9 to 14 is when the hormones run havoc. So by the time they turn 15, they usually settled. By the time they've turned 15, you really can use reason with them. Before 14, you can try using reason, but their hormones might not allow them to follow reasoning. Might not. You have to try. But by 15, hormones have settled, and that's no longer an excuse. Now they should totally be able to follow reason, because the brain is fully matured and they have no excuse to not be using it. So this is the last principle I'll leave you with. As parents of teenagers, the spiritual principle that you should hold on to the most is change is a constant. Means your beautiful darling babies turned into these teenage monsters. But change is a constant. They will change again. They won't stay teenagers. And so this is summarized beautifully as, this too shall pass. Every time you're having a really bad day with a teenager, the thing you can remind yourself is, this too shall pass. They most definitely will settle down. And around 15, 16, they actually become such pleasant people to hang with, capable of having intelligent conversations, developed sense of humor. And they're young with all these innovative ideas. And so guidance given to us is by then, now, you stop being their parent and they The word used is friend, but I don't think they're ever your friend. They're another family member, like your siblings, your in-laws, they're just another family member. But deep down, even today, as adults, when we see our parents, they are our parents. We don't need them to parent us anymore, but they'll always be our parents. So too you will always be theirs. But you don't need to parent anymore. I pause here for today. Any questions?
So, for example, if I tell my daughter go and do the shopping for me, like buy some bread or something, peanut butter, she says no, I don't want to, and she has to eat in the next 30 minutes. In the end, I end up going, or the help will go end up going. So
So she didn't do the responsibility. Then let her eat what's in the house. Vairagya. If you tell her to go and buy the bread for her own meal and she doesn't go, then she doesn't get to eat it. Action, consequence. If you take away the consequence, how they learn? Maturity won't come. Going down to buy bread, so simple. Why are we making them so delicate?
Using what you shared today, how do you handle conflict disagreements? Right? Let's say that as teenagers, they're ready to do things. Sometimes things you may not agree with, and then let it be and deal with consequences, but could be quite.
So, one thing I learned, and I haven't actually tried it, but I'll tell you what the principle is. So, once they start becoming teenagers, give them some freedom. Right? Like I said in Hong Kong, I don't know how you'll do it because they don't clean their room. Yeah, but some freedom. Maybe with going out with friends, choosing friends, when they study, when they don't study. Maybe gadget time, although gadgets are tricky because they're highly, highly addictive. Um, and then when they want other things, then the way to say it is, not yet. One day you'll be responsible enough and mature enough to make that decision too. But for now, that decision's still with me. But I'll give it to you. Maybe in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, but you'll get it. Because sometimes to hear the word no is different to not yet. And then if they really are taking responsibility, we certainly can give them more freedom. Right? Like I gave the example of my parents giving me the freedom of what time I come back home. So, but I was working, huh? So, I mean, not full-time working. Kids in high school in Australia worked. Yeah. So already you're showing responsibility. So then that's fine. Yeah. So if they take responsibility, then you get more freedom. So that even with your daughter, you can say, do be responsible and go down and buy me things, more freedom you'll get. So yeah, certain things we're not going to allow. They smoking marijuana at home? No, not allowed. Although they'll give you Google facts, huh, about how it's perfectly fine and you just being old fashioned, then you say to them, I'm old fashioned. Full stop. You deal. Certain things there's no need to compromise on. Certain things you can. They want to study from 3 to 5 in the morning. Okay. You try. Let's see what grades you get. But now you deal with the consequence that comes. And if they really have to deal with the consequence, they'll change, huh? It can't be a threat. You have to actually leave it to them. When I first decided my family ate meat, I think I was about 14 when I said I wanted to be vegetarian. My mom thought this girl's going through a phase. I'm going to have to deal with all this additional cooking because she's going through one phase. So she said, you cook your own food. Of course, we ate veg enough of the week, every now and then. I cooked my own food. Sometimes it was baked beans on toast, but I cooked. I also knew how to cook at that age. After a few months, she saw I was serious because I was cooking. After that, she cooked. But sometimes we throw it at them, then we will see if they really mean it. And they will also see if they really meant it. Because when I had to cook for myself, I had to think. It's just easier to eat what she made, right? And then I used to think, no. I myself became so sure that this is what I wanted. And I think my mom doing that guaranteed it wasn't a phase. Because I was so sure that it's what I wanted. So, certain things, leave the onus on them to do. Certain things we just, no. Not in this house. When you have your own house, you do. But more and more, we will need to trust them. Okay? Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om